Are you opening for questions?
Yeah, it's fine. Questions.
Simply, I brought a list. I told you before we started.
Yes.
A whole lot of questions from MWeb and from Facebook, from previous interaction you had from the interview. So, first of all, from Lagbeast, what are you doing to bridge the gap between the games and organisations that the MSSA has burnt bridges with in the past?
Could you please repeat? Sorry.
In the past, the MSSA has had a bad reputation with a lot of gamers and clubs and organisations in totality. What is the MSSA's plan to rectify and try to get these people back involved? Like myself, I mean, I had a good experience in the beginning. It turned sour. How do you plan to get me back involved in the MSSA?
Okay. Basically, what we're trying to do with the general public is that we try to get them to be within the MSSA by registering clubs, so that they have a bigger voice. Because from the outside, it's really difficult to influence anything. So, in order to get you back, why not join a club and then we can.
Are you going to waive the fee for that? Because you've already alienated him.
This is simply where I ran a club. I brought quite a few gamers to the MSSA. One of them being Robert Pannetank-Werter, who unfortunately also had to step away from Sports Africa at the end. How can you keep these players, organisations like Polar Fluke and others that have left in the past with you, without burning the bridges like they're happening?
Okay, before I can answer that, I need a bit of background as to how the bridges were burned, if you don't mind.
Can I ask you a different question?
Okay.
Where is the esports representative that Sports Africa has on its board? Because that guy should be the one who has the full background, should be informing you of what's happened in the past. I replied to this press conference straight away once I saw it was happening. Me being here should have alerted you that some hard questions were going to come from my side. Why do you not know who I am? I think it's a valid question because I've done certain things in the esports community, and your mandate as president of the MSSA should be to know the history of esports, not fully, but have an idea of who key players in the current industry are. So while I was that, and you may be in a difficult position, I did manage a club. I ran tournaments for Sports Africa, a few national qualifiers, provincial qualifiers for StarCraft 2, female and male disciplines. So that's basically what I am.
Okay.
So how are you going to get me back as a tournament host, especially in light of how other provincials are run at the moment?
Just so I understand, what you're asking is, you want to get to make the situation better.
Yes.
That's what this is.
How are you going to rectify the situation that's in front of me to make me feel like I want to be part of MSSA again? So that I can bring gamers now from Dota 2 as well and StarCraft into the MSSA's fold.
Yeah, but it would be difficult to answer that question if I don't know what happened in the first place.
Okay, can I go on to a different question then?
Sure.
The current MSSA member base, how big is it and what percentage is actually esports?
We're talking about player base.
Member base. Member clubs.
Members, clubs.
The clubs, the members themselves, and what percentage of that entire base is esports?
Basically, the esports make up about 32%.
And what's that in terms of actual size, number-wise? How many players do you guys actually have affiliated to you at the moment?
It's about, let's see. It's about, I can't really remember the figure from the last meeting, but I'm not really sure. Don't
Can you
know.
give us a ballpark figure? 300, 500?
So let's say you have 5,000 people, right? 32% of that. So like a rough estimation from you, what
Yeah.
does that be 100%?
Yeah, we're not.
But what's the reason for asking that? That's actually
Sorry,
private
we're at a press
business.
conference. We're trying to find out how many members you have, how many people are esports athletes. These are very straightforward questions.
So basically, we're trying to understand in terms of the MSSA, what percentage of esports or how big is esports in the MSSA is what it's going to lead to.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out what sort of percentage of the actual community is supporting the MSSA. That's kind of what I'm alluding to now.
Seven are not also sports. All of the rest have a combination of members, where you actually have members across discipline.
Okay.
But the total membership. You want that?
Sorry?
You want that one?
Yeah,
I'm just fine.
Okay.
Well, we have
Some important questions.
Yeah.
That's actually calculations.
Sorry?
12
Okay. Okay. To answer your question, we have 37 clubs, of which 7 of them are purely esports, and then. Okay. 7 of them do not do esports, and then the rest have like interest in them. And then for the total membership, it's roughly 12,500.
So you're telling me that there's roughly 4,500 esports members in One Sports South Africa?
Plus minus, yes.
Okay. What you wanted to ask something?
So I see you just the first number you gave, you said how many clubs didn't play esports? 7 didn't play
Yes.
esports,
And then 30 plays, yeah.
13.
Yeah.
That's what it's 20 clubs in total, just to be sure.
Sorry?
20 in total.
No, 37.
37.
Yes.
So 7.
7 do not offer esports, and then 30.
32.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Yes, sir.
A large percentage of the concerns has really been about the communication from Mind Sports to the gamers. In order to move forward, it's been suggested by myself and various others that you engage in be it your website or other mediums in terms of getting PR people in and so on and so on. I do understand it is a volunteer thing. Are you guys looking at doing that? Appointing specific people to deal with the media relating to this type of thing? Because with you being busy and Colin running his own business and all this other good stuff, have you guys addressed that type of, because in my opinion, the inability of press to get the answers to the questions they need, I think maybe that is something that you guys can have a look at. Are you looking at that?
Yes, the website is, we are looking at it at a more interactive website in terms of tournaments but what we've been doing, we've been sending out, we have a Facebook page where we've been sending out the calendar of events, so anyone who has access to Facebook should be able to know when and where the tournaments are being held.
Sorry, I don't want to A lot of the tournaments we get notification of sort of locations 3 days before the event, things like that. Does that?
The Gauteng qualifiers being the next one coming up, there's no location being given for that yet either.
So
Okay.
I think St. Peter is going to get to that. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So where was I now? Okay. Basically, yes, I was talking about the Facebook page. Yes. And then as for the esports representative, because it's a volunteering thing, we are having it's problematic to find people who will fill in these positions, because now maybe they take up too much of their time, whatever the excuses would be. But we are working on it.
Sorry, would you mind if I do a follow-up on that, if that's okay? I think the most important thing is being in a position to communicate your vision and everything else that you want. And as an executive, which you guys are you guys looking at facilitating the whole getting representation who actually speaks to us or speaks to the esports community from a perspective of getting the input or a type of committee who can then in turn communicate maybe to the media? Would that maybe be an option?
Just like a midway, someone who takes what you're doing because you can't communicate with us directly, just conveys that to us, that's their sole job.
And then the benefit of that, I mean, if you look at it.
Well, is that something you're looking?
Yes. We are looking. Thanks.
I mean, understandably, what happened on the ML post when the interview was posted with you and ML.
Yeah.
We had a lot of comments, we had a lot of questions, a lot of hard questions. There was a lot of negativity. And I emphasize on the negativity, especially because it was so pervasive. Because of this, we can't, I cannot overstate the importance of having someone in PR, someone who can handle PR for MSSA, at least that can reduce the frustration levels, the anger levels that many people feel. Because your organization has the reputation that it does at this moment in time, you're looking to improve it. What kind of timeframes are we looking at for something? What people?
Yeah, you said 2 weeks ago that you promised a new website. So just let's start with a representative, a website, updates. What are your timeframes in terms of getting those done?
Do you mind?
It should be this coming week. As you said, it will be this coming week.
Okay. The website will be out this coming week.
Website's coming this week?
Yes.
Okay. And
Okay,
in terms of a representative, are you interviewing or have you put out a vacancy? What is your situation with that?
Give me the answer. Give me the answer.
Sorry?
Do you want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, what you've got to understand with Mind Sports South Africa is that it is a national federation. It is a private association, as I've pointed out to many people, and a lot of people fail to understand, just like swimming or rugby or cricket. So when there's any position that's available, if it doesn't currently exist on a committee, it has to be made, and that's basically an amendment either to the regulations or to the Constitution itself. What you have at the moment is that the MSSA is going to be doing a major overhaul of its Constitution to deregulate certain aspects in terms of requirements by both the International Federation and by SASCOC and the government, whereby there will be a large emphasis on transformation in terms of those organizations. This in itself, though, will create many more possibilities for people who wish to volunteer to take an active role, although currently there are many positions which people could fill. I mean, we've already advertised several times for people to stand for the position of Vice President Events, which is vacant after the annual general meeting, which nobody seems to have taken up since it's a work position. But when you're looking at that, you have to realise that a lot of these have to follow due process. We're an organisation that has to follow its own rules. Anything less than that would mean that we in ourselves would be subject to censure on a number of different levels. One of which would be, of course, the Prevention of Corruption Act, because that specifically applies to sport. And with the long-term gains that we are all looking at in terms of making for esports, in making for gaming as a whole, in terms of participation at the All Africa Games, bringing out top players to the country this year, continuing with our highly successful regional, inter-regional and inter-provincial events, as well as the international online test events. We would obviously not want to put any of that in jeopardy, especially because it applies to gamers and what gamers can get out of it. I mean, for example, Polar Fluke did a marvellous job in identifying the talent of Robert Botha. I mean, he played for Robert Botha. Robert Botha played for Polar Fluke all the time until he actually changed to Cooler Master. The national team selection had nothing to do with whom he played for. Let me just finish. And what you're looking at is there's a due process for creating a position for the public relations. And that is something that will be addressed to the members. It's for example, and I think this is something that a lot of people have to understand, is that first and foremost, the provincial championships have been advertised. We had a bit of a problem this year with the Gauteng championships in terms of a venue. That's been successfully dealt with. It's advertised to the members. They have due notification. The press will be advised accordingly. But it's the members that will be making these decisions. It's the members that will actually decide who gets elected, if there are changes to the constitution. And this is something that becomes a very difficult balancing act, especially when you're dealing with so many different parties, as Simpiwe said earlier, with government, with SASCOC, with international federations and with the members. Because you have to actually present something that is in line with all the different demands that are applied if you want gaming to, of course, be seen as a real sport in a real sporting environment.
Sorry, just wondering then, on that line, not necessarily dealing with the press directly, but I mean, the outpouring of comments came primarily from players and gamers themselves. And I'm just wondering what you are doing to improve relationships with your own members and with your own gamers, if we consider that if you have 4,500 gamers registered with you for esports, that means you have a turnout of 0.1% coming to your events. So how are you improving your relationships with your own members and your own gamers, and gamers who might want to become affiliated?
No. Yeah, you can go.
Well, part of the policy there has been what we started last year with the regional championships. As you're probably aware, in South Africa there are 52 regions. The majority of gamers are not affluent. They are actually, the majority of our gamers do come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And the problem is, of course, transport. And that is why, in fact, last year we proposed certain amendments. At the AGM they were passed, and the committee has undertaken, and it's in fact something that Simpiwe has personally driven, is to have the regional championships to be open to any gamer, and to actually have as many regional competitions as possible. As you can imagine, there's 52 different regions. So this is a big investment from Mind Sport South Africa's side to get people there. And it's easier to get people, obviously, to a venue in an area in which they live than to get them to a centralised area for provincial or national championships. When you have a look at your percentage for your tournaments, I don't think you actually have, I don't think that's actually a true figure.
I believe it to be quite a bit low. I've got
No,
from
it's...
the Northwest Provincials.
Yes,
last
I don't think you're aware of all our events, for a start.
Okay.
What you have to be aware of, that you're looking at a federation that doesn't just look at top end, which obviously we like to look at the top end. We get a lot of publicity for the top end, and it's great to see people going overseas and earning accolades. But there's a whole continuum. There's a continuum from development onwards all the way through there to the top end. You're looking at a lot of work that's being done in townships. There's a lot of work that's being done in rural areas. We have a number of projects that actually involve people at the very beginning stage of esports. It's not just all about PC. It also involves, obviously, the other different platforms. So when you start looking at it, you're looking at one aspect, and you're saying it would be the same as looking at swimming in South Africa and saying, well, at nationals last year there were only 350 swimmers.
Which other platforms?
Whereas, sorry?
Are you talking about console gaming, or are you talking about the other?
We're talking about esports. So what you're looking at with our tournaments is that what you're seeing there are the people who are coming through to play competitively in order to earn colours, earn a place for national team trials. That's what you're looking at. I mean, there are obvious problems when it comes to gaming in certain aspects, of which we are fully aware, and these are things that we have dealt with over the years, and that is that with a lot of the games, a lot of the esports games, that they are online, and that is why we have a policy of having provincial colours that is based on residency, not based on where a team is, so that people who participate in our online championships actually do earn, can still earn provincial colours. I mean, you can play for a team like Bravado. You live in Cape Town, you'll get Western Cape Championships, whereas the other person, for example, might live in Pretoria and get Gauteng colours. So we do acknowledge that. We do acknowledge this as a problem, and this is in fact one of the problems when it comes to a land championship, in that a lot of the teams are split up over the country, and they do not make these events. And that is of course a big problem for gaming in South Africa, because if you have a look at gaming on an international level, you'll find that the teams are actually, they do tend to be, generally speaking, based within the same area. Not only that, but they all do make the physical LAN championships, because it's the LAN championships which are actually very important in determining the ability of the gamer, as well as ensuring standards. With gaming having been incorporated into the Asian Games. The IESF is now a signatory of WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association. And of course, drug tests are now done at international championships. The National Federation itself is also required to comply with the WADA requirements, which is organised through the South African branch, Cape Town. And from this year onwards, players at national team trials will have drug tests, and there will be random drug testing at national championships to bring South Africa fully in line. And this, of course, again leads directly into the vision of where gaming is going. It's going into the European Championships in 2015. It's going into, hopefully, the All African Games, and hopefully even further. And there's huge benefits and spin-offs from this. This is, in fact, mind-blowing. I mean, if gaming is accepted at an Olympic stage, you're looking at top athletes being put on the OPEX program with SASCOC, and they get paid salaries, which is the true professionalism that you're looking for in gaming, which this is a problem that you have seen in South Africa year in, year out, where somebody says, I want to be a professional gamer. I know this, yeah. I've seen it. I mean, my own son started Bravado in 2002. He was very keen. It was just not sustainable. You're looking at a situation that you have to make this sustainable. And how do you make it sustainable? And through obviously the accredited format you do, because there's the advantages of having people coming into a system where you have Olympic Committee support, you have government support, and those two organizations are able to influence a great deal of private sector support. Sorry, George, and then Matt. You had a question?
Sorry, yes. As you know, I ran the AFRIOS event a short while ago. I then saw this article or thing on your Facebook with regard to tournaments or providing tournaments and so on on your Facebook page, which was posted there specifically related to the sign-up fee being used as prize money. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
All right. Why did you guys put it up?
It's part of the law.
May I also interject and ask why St. Peter is not actually answering it?
Right, well, okay, no, you just asked me to answer the last one, sorry. Go for it. And he was answering, I thought you were asking me. No.
At Minds South Africa, it was posted by you guys. I'm here to talk to St. Peter.
Yeah, it's fine.
Who posted it?
Oh, doesn't matter. It was just...
Okay. Could you elaborate more on the... Yes, please.
All right. It comes back to the whole communication of Mind Sports, to me and to other people. And that is, you guys posted this rules and regulations of the Gambling Act and the likes and so on and so on. And why did you put that on there? Why did you guys put it on there? Because you didn't say why you put it on there. You just put it on there. Now, as a tournament organizer, which I am, be it online and offline, I fail to comprehend why motorsports would put it on there. A lot of comment in the media was said that MSSA is trying to stop gaming or stop tournaments or prohibit tournaments from happening, and I just like your comment.
Okay. No, I'm gonna have to ask Colin to answer this one specifically.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Thanks.
The MSSA puts up a lot of these statements onto its Facebook page. You'll notice that there's often there's just a share of the PMG meetings, Parliamentary Monitoring Group, and other relevant legislation that applies. From that point of view, it's been a policy for a number of years to put these things up. It's really to help member clubs deal with the legislation that actually applies. It's not the link that was put up was not to any regulations. It wasn't put up to anything that the MSSA had done. It was a pure link to the Gambling Boards Act, which obviously applies to a lot of events. You will notice probably at the same time there was one put up to the Parliamentary Monitoring Group where there was a discussion about the government grants. Probably at the same time, I'm not sure, but I think there may have been one put up that related to the safety and security at Events Act.
Yes.
It's just there so that members can see it, interpret it, and apply it, because these are things that actually do apply to gaming. You're not looking at gaming existing in a world that's outside the current legislation. Literally every week we put up a link towards some act that is relevant and pertinent to gaming.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if you're running an event where you are using a portion of entry fees as prize money, that's something that you've got to deal with. But we know the AfriHost event didn't.
Yes.
And certainly, it's not a case of doing anything else. I mean, you see members, for example, you'll find will actually write in after that if they've got a problem, and they'll say, how does this apply? Most members don't. You see, I can understand the one part of your question where you're saying, some gamers are saying that this is limiting the growth of gaming. How, I don't see.
Yeah.
We're not limiting the growth of gaming. What you're looking at is this legislation that exists. And it's something that an organizer must take into account, because unfortunately the Gambling Act is a very draconian piece of legislation. It's something actually which I can tell you I actually opposed at the time.
Surely the Gambling Act only applies to gambling?
No, it doesn't. It actually applies to any event that uses entry fees as prize money, a portion of entry fees as prize money. You have to actually state up front what the entry fee is. And you see, that in itself, it's a double-edged sword, like a lot of legislation. Some legislation is very poorly drafted. For example, I opposed a lot of the 2010 legislation. I actually went down to Parliament and opposed it. Because you've always got to look at the unexpected outcome. And unfortunately, and this is why it's very important to have people who look at the bills who are coming out and actually state it. Because you have unexpected outcomes. So you have this concept of saying, well, this is the law. And then what it does is it does impede to a certain degree the growth of an event in which people are looking for financial reward. Because you have to actually be able to state up front what the actual prize money is. So you see, if you don't deliver, the problem is that then, of course, you are in contravention of the Act. Now, and a few other acts. The benefit to that is, of course, that the gamer who does participate in an event is now guaranteed of what the reward is.
Would it not be in the gamer's best interest that the MSSA takes some time as the regulator to sit and go through all legislation that applies to mine sports?
Sure. I mean, where do you want to start?
Sorry,
There's a lot of legislation.
Sorry if I might. I think that comes back to the initial question about having a PR person.
Yes, no, and that is something which Simpili has answered.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry,
Sorry, there was a bit of a discussion about going professional gaming and sustainability and funding for all of that. Now, I know that you guys offer bursaries and things like that, but that is one of the activities that you're involved with.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that I was just wondering about in terms of your own organization, organizing the tournaments, organizing all these things, sending people overseas. You've said before that SASCOC has paid for people to go overseas. And other people are saying it's actually the IESF that pays for people to go overseas. Can we just get some clarification on when you've sent players overseas, who's actually paying for their visas, who's paying for their flights and accommodation? Where does that money come from?
From my knowledge, it comes from the sponsor.
From MWeb?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I've been told as well.
All right, and so you have the affiliation with SASCOC. Are they funding you as well as an association, as a member federation?
No, they're not funding.
Okay, so you receive no funding from SASCOC.
No.
Okay.
Is there any other government funding that is received by Mine Sports South Africa?
No.
So would you clarify your relationship with the government to us? Just summarize it to us so we understand better.
Okay, basically, Mine Sports is the sole authority for all of our disciplines that we have under our belt. So you have us here, and then the government, we are an affiliate to SASCOC, the Olympic Committee, we are a member there. And then sports and recreation, what do they put?
Priorities.
Okay, no.
Yeah, no. Okay. There's a lot of things, obviously. I have a lot of dealings in all of this, and some periods finding his feet, and that's a lot of work. He's got another meeting tonight, which he's going off to. But the way that you have to understand the way that sport works is that it's governed by Act of Parliament, the Sport and Recreation Act of 1998 is amended. Okay. That Act decides the roles of the national federations, and it decides the roles of the minister and his department, as well as that of the Sports Confederation. The Sports Confederation being SASCOC, the national federations being the various federations that look after the different codes. Sport and recreation does offer grants on a year-to-year basis to certain sports, and whether they take them up or not is up to the federation. You have your national federation also affiliated to SASCOC on both a national level, and its provincial structures then affiliated to the SASCOC confederation structures on a provincial level. Okay, so there's a lot of affiliation going on here. There's a lot of work. Then you also have the National Federation, obviously affiliated to its international bodies. So when you look at a national federation, although a national federation is a private association, and it doesn't matter which one you're looking at, it could be rugby, it could be cricket, it could be swimming. And I used to be a swimmer a few years ago. Okay, many years ago. You're looking at a federation actually has to comply with the requests of its international federation, and a lot of those requests from the international federation come from whether the IOC or Sport Accord at an even higher level. And then of course it has to obviously deal with the national and of course the provincial and of course its own membership. It is very important to note that the IOC bars any government involvement in the national federation. It actually forbids it. However, obviously with all countries there are different national priorities, and South Africa has many. National federations do subscribe to obviously the national priorities, often that are brought out by the government. Is there anything you want to say? I mean, you at the meetings.
Yeah, that's fine. We've covered it. Yeah.
Does that answer your questions?
Well, you were asking.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Give us a little bit more clarity as to how you operate as well. Another question I have. Until lately, there has only been one interview with the organizers of the event where there was a Q&A, questions sent back and forth and then published.
Yeah.
Will there be further interviews with other sites and other groups such as the Game, the E-Game, and so on and so forth? Who do we speak to arrange that, and can we see that more in future?
In other words, the question is, will you open media relations and interviews to not just your sponsor, but to other media outlets as well? That's a question. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Would we?
Back to you.
Basically, yeah. Once we have like even our esports representative, I think it would be something that we can consider.
But you yourself, in your own capacity, like you did with Emily,
Yes.
would you be willing to do that? Until such time that you do have your esports representative, just as a way of reparations for MSSA's reputation?
Yeah, we could.
Okay, cool.
We could.
Simply, we're
Yes.
just talking about your lack of time to get up to speed with everything. You've been in the presidency now for 3 months.
Yes.
Most of the questions are being filled by Colin still. When can we expect you to be at a level where it doesn't need to go through, no respect to Colin, but through another person?
Oh, I can't really set a timeline for that, because as as it has been said that I'm working, I'm an auditor, we don't really have time on our hands. I'm also a student, so...
Do you not perhaps think you may have taken on too much here?
So long as I have a strong committee behind me, it's gonna be fine. This is the last year I'm gonna be studying, so because I'm in the chair for 3 years, the next 2 years are gonna be much better.
So we can expect that this year will basically be the learning curve
Yes.
for a whole year.
Yes.
Okay, apart from Colin, is there anybody within the MSSA that can be interviewed if you aren't available? Let's say Colin's busy, you're busy.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else? Can you suggest anybody else that we can interview to give us official answers?
Yes. Carl Holiday. He is head of legal, so he'll be able to give you answers to your questions as well.
What is his role within the MSSA?
He's head of legal.
Head of legal.
Yes. Okay.
Don't let me have a question.
Why is MSSA charging members 500 rand to lodge a dispute? There's many other private organisations who run ticket systems, run tournaments, events arguably larger than that of any of the MSSA events, and they charge no fees whatsoever, especially in the case of lodging a dispute. Why is there a fee for that?
The 500 rand dispute, that's in the regulations, I think.
It's your regulations, yes.
Yes, but that is actually not a dispute within a tournament. That is a dispute that's actually outside of a tournament.
I understand that, but other organisations field similar questions and disputes and once again don't charge. Why is the MSSA charging? Especially to its members who already pay an affiliation fee to be part of this federation.
What you have to understand with Mind Sport South Africa is that no decision is ever made without the consent of the members. Anything that is part of the regulations or constitution has been agreed to by the members. In order to change a constitution, it has to go through a general meeting.
Okay, but
And
why
to go
is that
through,
fee?
can I finish? And to go through to change a regulation has to go through an executive meeting. At any executive meeting, every single member club is actually able to vote. So the decision that it is there is actually because of the majority of members who wanted it there. It's got nothing else to do with that. When it comes to our committee meetings,
Can you perhaps help me understand why your membership would vote on such a clause then? Let me put it that way. What was the reason given behind the go-ahead of this specific clause?
well, I think it's been there for years. I mean, what the actual reason would be, I'd have to go through past minutes and see why it was actually proposed. I mean, you're asking something that, I mean, that's been there for years. It's a say, it has to go through past minutes and past agendas.
Would you be willing to do that, to get an outcome out of this question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, if I may ask, as if I'm not mistaken, Mind Sports is a tier 1 sport in South Africa, much like rugby, cricket, all of that, as we keep hearing. Can you please give some clarification as to why you aren't getting SASCOC funding? Why have you guys, I mean, obviously funding helps, you qualify for funding, why are you not going that route to get additional funding from the government to run more tournaments, be more active in esports?
It's actually a very easy answer for SASCOC. SASCOC itself is a private association. It's not government. It's the Olympic Committee. It's the South African Sport Confederation and Olympic Committee. And it doesn't give funding to any federation. SASCOC doesn't give funding. What they do is they run Team South Africa, and yes, that's something else that's come up in the past. The IP Team South Africa is owned by SASCOC. It relates particularly and only to the teams that are chosen to represent South Africa at the Olympic Games, at the All Africa Games, at the Paralympic Games. SASCOC's role is delivery of those teams. Its role is good governance of its member federations, and its role is its OPEX, which it pays very handsomely, and of course runs its high performance centres around the country. Probably the most notable is the one at Pretoria University. That's what you're looking at. SASCOC in itself is an organisation which is almost, in terms of its construct, identical to any of its members.
So it doesn't give funding to any of its members?
No.
Okay.
Simply, if I may ask, what are your thoughts on the Southern Barbarians? If you don't know who they are, that they're a team that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that they qualified to play in a Battlefield 4 event as a South African team. Not necessarily Team South Africa, but they were forced to not use the flag or any resemblance to the name. What are your thoughts on teams that who aren't part of your structure playing in international events under the South African banner, specifically stating that they are not the official South African team?
Oh, okay. Basically, the same thing happened. I'll just give you a bit of history. The same thing happened to me when I was still playing Murabaraba for Mind Sports. A team selected by, I don't know who selected the team, but they were a Murabaraba team to go overseas to play in the Tafisa Games. So we were really, they didn't go through the Mind Sports because the Mind Sports, as we know, is the sole authority for Murabaraba. So it was really unfair for me not to go there because being part of Mind Sports means that I should be the one who is given at least trials to go and to become Team South Africa. So basically, if they don't go through the proper channels, they don't deserve to be Team South Africa.
The thing is, these events that these teams are qualifying for aren't affiliated to by Mind Sports South Africa. Is the reason why non-affiliated events are being attacked by Mind Sports South Africa for hosting players who are invited to those events? And I have occasion last year where a team was allowed to go in G-Sports to the Electronic Sports World Cup. We were a team we did approach Colin, and I appreciate being allowed to, but why is this team now not allowed to represent the country that they come from?
Okay.
Okay, because I actually dealt with the energy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
The Energy Esports went across last year. They did everything by the book. They even asked us to intervene with the university to get extensions for 2 of the players to have deferment on exams.
Yes.
We applied to the university and such was given. And we have no problem. The MSSA has never had a problem with any member club going across overseas. In fact, a number of times we've actually advertised events overseas that are looking for clubs to participate. When you're looking at, can I say this? Can I tell them about the correspondence?
Yeah.
When you're looking at the Southern Barbarians, it's a very different issue. We were contacted by Barry Lazada, who at that stage was the captain of the national team, and he gave us very short notice. We actually said to him, no, you can use the national team as it is, as it stands, And he said, look, he wants to expand the team. And I said, sorry, we actually met, the committee actually had met, and there was not time, in fact, to do a proper selection. So we actually said no. At no time, can I finish please? At no time did the MSSA in any way prohibit their participation. What the MSSA did say, and this was not reported accurately at all, was that you can participate, but you cannot participate as a South African team. And this is in line, we believe, with the Minister's regulations on national colours of 2007. So what you're looking at is a situation where, in fact, we had written and confirmed their participation in the event, as long as it was not as Team South Africa, which, as we've already discussed, you can't use, not even we can use the title Team South Africa. That is IP that belongs solely and wholly to SASCOC.
So would a team then be allowed to say that they are a team from South Africa, not Team South Africa?
That is actually what we did say to the team captain.
And using the South African flag along.
Well, the South African flag now is governed by, the use of it for teams is governed by the Minister's regulations. So that is beyond our scope. We can only, as a national federation, we obviously cannot give anybody advice that is contrary to existing legislation or regulations. And that is what we had actually advised them to do. And in fact, we had supported that team to the organisers wholly. At no stage, and there is, at no stage did we ever say that they could not participate.
They just could not participate under certain regulations.
Yes, that they could participate within the framework. And that rule applies.
Sure.
I mean, should you wish to form a team and send it overseas to the ESWC, but not want to go within the framework, that's fine, as long as you then do not claim to be more than what you are. That's really all that it is. You see, because you see, there are certain rules when it comes to representing the country, and you've got to understand there's a great deal of sensitivity about this, and there, especially from government. To give you an example, I mean, St. Peewee has yet to witness many of these meetings. Many years ago, was it 94 we did. I was at, by the way, I was actually at the meeting in 94 when we adopted the Protea. The one that was in Invictus. But 97, Shooting South Africa sent a team overseas. And they, if I remember correctly, had ignored the decision of changing from the Springbok to the Protea. As you can imagine, this was a very sensitive issue then for many people, as it is now. So when it comes to representation of South Africa overseas with a team that is calling itself South Africa, you have to realize that there is a great deal of sensitivity. There is a great deal of government interest. And that is something that you have to comply with. And you see, it's always a few people in anything that do make it very difficult for the majority. So when it comes to the Southern Barbarians, yes, MSSA is delighted that they are doing as well as they are. There's no doubt about it. As a group, we are ecstatic that they're doing as well as they are. We feel actually, as the MSSA, that it's part and parcel of the belief that we've had in them over the years. I mean, you know very well that we have pushed Battlefield, that we pushed the Battlefield team last year, and you really did. In fact, we would have preferred had they had said, this is what we do. In fact, a lot of things have come out of that Battlefield team that we selected last year, thanks to Barry Luzardo, where he had made a number of recommendations in terms of team selection and how reserves are selected, which in fact were all adopted by the executive and handed down to the selection committee. So in fact, and that you actually saw with the Dota team that we had selected, which was largely BBD, as you recall.
Well,
where
that's a very different situation.
No, it wasn't. I'm trying to show you here, where in fact it was largely BVD, and then when you have in fact where you have the captain, who was able to choose who he wanted from the people who played at trials to form part of the greatest squad. And that was in fact a recommendation given by Barry, which we had adopted and actually applies now until whenever.
Talking about that specific Dota team, when are we going to see structures that better pick teams to represent the country? This specific event was a best of one Swiss event. While Swiss isn't a problem, playing best of one when on an international stage, Dota 2 is best of two at least. When are we going to see trials that more reflect on international norms?
Well, the trials that were done that year, and I'm going to answer this, sorry, because you weren't involved, at least I was. The trials that were done that year were done to international norm, because those were the rules that are in fact handed down by the IESF. In those competitions, it is the best of one.
The problem, though, is that the IESF does not support Dota 2.
Well, it actually does on its online test matches.
At that time, it did not. It definitely did not. And then
I don't think you know that, but anyway.
If we're going into the IESF, can I ask why the MSSA chooses to affiliate with an event that is largely looked down on by international communities? It's regarded as a second or third tier event at best. Why is the MSSA not teaming up with DreamHack, ESL, who are trying to get an African portal up away into Africa? So why are we sitting with the IESF instead of people who actually do something?
It all comes down to vision. When you look at ESWC, World Cyber Games, DreamHack, these are private ventures. These are profit-making ventures for owners. The IESF started in 2009 with its first World Championships. It is an association which consists of member bodies, which are associations within their own countries. And it's the only route that you have into the existing sport structures. DreamHack, WCG, well, ESWC, no longer, well, they never could actually affiliate into those bodies. They are private ventures. What you're looking at is where do you see it going? Matt, I showed you the boards at the entrance of this club where you see the Old Eds members who have represented the country in different sports. And we're very proud of them as members of at this club, where you have Scotch Taylor, who was the Springbok cricket captain in '56, which was undefeated, and Kevin McKenzie, Graham Pollock, Dane Villas, Graham Smith, etc. And that's a different vision that you have. You're not saying, and you see, this is where I think a lot of gamers are going wrong. We're not picking one over the other. We do send gamers to DreamHack, as you well know, when we have the funds available. We do send players for many years, we sent players to WCG, from 2005 till 2010, when it just became financially unfeasible to actually continue. These are profit-making ventures which we utilized for gamers in order to make sure that there was that upward path, because this is what it's all about. All sport is an upward path. If you're getting involved in something and it's just for the here and now, it's of no value. What you're trying to do is create better citizens. You're trying to give people the opportunity of expressing themselves through what they love, through what they do. And that's where we're going. That's why you're trying to create the professionalism, which, even if only briefly, Rob Panda Tank could actually take advantage of. But
a big part of that was the ISF stopped supporting StarCraft for Men. How could he go back to the ISF to compete in an event he did so well in if they no longer supported it for men and only for women?
Well, you see, now once again, you're presuming that everything that happens at the ISF, the MSSA, is absolutely in tune with. What you have to remember is that the MSSA is a member body. There are decisions, even within the MSSA, which I'm sure some people does not agree with. Several I could actually think of. But that's not the point. All these organizations are run by committee. Okay, sorry, I see it. And you see, this is what you have to look at, is these. We looked at it last year. Sorry, and some people, you weren't on the committee last year, so it's unfair for. But and that is why we said, because the ISF is not supporting StarCraft for Men this year, we will send a player across to DreamHack. And we did. So it wasn't a case that it was just cutting somebody off at the legs. The decision that was made at the ISF is an ISF decision. Whether people like it or not, it's their decision, they made it. Now, and we as a member comply. However, we did take remedial action. We did actually send him, we did still have trials, and we sent a player across to DreamHack.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have two questions then relating to that. Because the first would then be for the player we did send, who I believe during the interview with her opponent, the opponent actually laughed and said that her opponent had only been playing for a few weeks. If I'm not mistaken, this is the
She
start.
was an unranked 1v1 player and she was a bronze 2v2 player. So she had...
And she herself admitted she'd only been playing StarCraft for a few months. I mean, is this the caliber of player that you're looking to send over?
I don't know if you know the end game of that. She came second at the event, but there were only 2 people at the event.
No, you're actually wrong. There were more than 2 players. A lot of players actually forfeited it.
There were players who didn't pitch, I understand that.
So
there were only 2 players at the event.
No, there were more players at the event. There were 2. Most of the players forfeited when they saw that they had to play against the Korean gamer. And you see, this is where a lot of people are making a basic mistake. If I'm swimming 200 meters butterfly, or Chad Lacrosse is swimming 200 meters butterfly, and everybody else forfeits, he's still the winner. that year in which, and that wasn't last. Can I?
Colin, that's the thing.
No.
What wasn't mentioned in any of the press releases from Mines for South Africa that only 2 people participated in the event. Players forfeited, I understand that, but in actual fact, only 2 people played.
So she came second.
Okay, that's an inherent problem that the MSSA has when it comes to communication.
No.
Not everything is flowers and butterflies. You must know that.
No, you're absolutely right. Can I finish? Can I please, Matt? Let me finish. What you're having a look at here is a basic inability that a lot of gamers are looking at here. And they're saying, well, let's see the weaknesses and let's harp on them and let's push them until the nth degree. A player who enters an event, if other players have entered, there is greater participation than 2. They've just forfeited. If you come second and there's only 2 people, you're still second. Nobody can rob you of that. The other thing is that what you're looking at, Zoe, what you raised and you said a year ago, it wasn't a year ago. This was the first year that we had female participation. When we selected Gabrielle, she was the best female player who had entered our tournaments. And this is something that comes back to an earlier question that was raised, where where Matt said, what is the process? And there is a whole process for being selected. And
this goes back to the previous question of how you're getting more people involved, because I can tell you now there are plenty of women in South Africa who are ranked higher, who are better StarCraft players, who didn't take part in your competition. And so what are you doing to get people involved?
And that is exactly what we have found. Last year, sorry, Matt, can I please finish?
Because the only reason she played was because I hosted that event.
Fine, well done.
Just understand, you would not have had a female to 7 who, or if you did, it would have
actually
been even worse than Gabriella.
Actually,
I'm sorry.
Yes, don't worry. We respect what you did. We're very grateful for what you did. And in fact, that year there were 5 ladies who qualified for team trials.
Okay.
This past year, there were even more women who qualified for trials. And if you have a look at the lady who went, Yolandi Williams, she in fact was far superior to what Gabrielle was. And she, although she didn't do as well, the tournament overseas was much fiercer. What you're looking at is a growing situation. You're not looking at something where it just magically appears, but there is a process for people in order to qualify. And that process is you have to be a member of a club. That process is that you participate at an official MSSA event. Now, what we have done is we have deregulated to a large extent the regional championships. And of course the provincial and national championships, the people who finish in the top 3 or the top 20%, whichever is greater, automatically qualify for national team trials. National team trials are then held out of those people who have qualified and who are willing to actually play at trials. And there you find that there's a large drop-off. Okay, I've seen. And what you're looking at there is a situation where you choose the best players who are within the system. Sorry, can we have him and then we'll have you, Zoe.
So these trials, people, I'm just trying to understand this. People have to be part of a club that's affiliated with the MSSA to be eligible for these trials.
Yes.
Now, why is that? Because I know from first-hand experience that's not the case with a lot of other sporting committees in this country. In this country, if you want to go to provincial trials or national trials in that case, that event is just open to anyone. If I want to go for swimming trials, provincial trials, which I have done, you go there. You are part of a club. I don't have any affiliation with the government, and I go to that provincial trials and there are people there, I swim and I get chosen.
No.
That's it. Why? Yes, that's how it works.
Okay, sorry, can I tell you now? I actually served last year on the Swimming South Africa Technical Committee. That's not true. I used to swim from the 70s to the 80s for South Africa. And let me tell you, that's not true.
So you're saying his experience, his personal experience is incorrect?
That what may have been seen there is, in order to swim in provincial championships, you have to be a member of a swimming club, whether you like it or not. What you may have been looking at is at your school events. To swim for schools, you have to belong to a school, which in turn is affiliated to Swimming South Africa. There's always that level of affiliation. So you will find no sport in this country actually takes a person into a national team who is not affiliated through one of their structures. So if you're looking at swimming, and trust me, I know this, you actually would be a member of Wanderers. If you were looking at swimming at the provincial event that's going to lead to the national team, if you were looking at the national schools team, you might have been at St. John's College, which then actually in itself was affiliated through to Swimming South Africa through the school provincial body. But sorry if I sounded a little harsh at first, but when you have a look at this is one of the requirements of a national federation. That in fact, if you're going to represent the country, you are in fact a member of the national federation. Okay, sorry, Zoe and then George.
Can we limit the questions now? Can we limit?
Up to you.
Yeah, can we please have 3 more questions? Okay.
And my question comes down to, because I'm getting bombarded from actual gamers on Twitter who are asking me, they're saying, okay, so we have this issue with the Southern Barbarians that happened. We have now a team that's going to LA from part of the MLG. Now, MLG last year, they actually had to refer to them as the team from South Africa, because all the players were South African, but they were prohibited from actually saying Team South Africa, causing some confusion in the stadium and things like that. These structures, there are problems. We're quizzing you and grilling you on these questions. If going through all the proper channels, if your affiliated bodies are the problem, the fact that they don't necessarily support the sport that we're discussing, or whatever the issue might be, do you not think that maybe you need to look at joining up with other partners? Do you not think that maybe you need to address the problems inherent in your association that are causing the gamers so much difficulty in taking part in the sport?
Or causing them from not coming to the MSSA for help?
Yeah.
Or attract them to the MSSA by making it more viable for them to be there.
Because right now it's easier for them to circumvent the MSSA than it actually is to deal with you. That's the real core problem at the moment, is that the experience of trying to deal with the MSSA to get them aligned with committees that will help them compete nationally with the game they are competing with. It's easier for them to completely just go around the issue and rather play like that, just because the support structure is not there.
And I understand you have this vision that you want to grow esports. Maybe growing esports is a matter of getting flexibility with regards to these issues a bit more, and also taking into account your government, your provincial level, your national level, all of these, and expanding your scope, if you understand what I'm saying.
So, sorry, just to simplify, if the problem is that the IESF doesn't support certain games, or that in your constitution you have certain things prohibiting certain things from happening, would it not just be simpler to change, rather than to fight every gamer who butts heads with you guys?
I really do believe we're not butting heads with every single gamer, and you can see from the numbers that we have as members, we're not. What you're looking at is that we're a federation. We comply with the law. Okay? We never have, and we stopped any team from going overseas. We can't. We're not going to. It's not our job. Obviously, we would like to see the ISF do more games. And that has been something, if you have a look at our Facebook page, we have asked every year for gamers to please state what games they would like the ISF to host. And every single recommendation that we've received, we have always submitted. And that is, there's a paper trail for that. What you're looking at is we're not governing the flag. We're not governing the name. Swimming South Africa doesn't have rights over the flag. Rugby doesn't have rights over the flag. Mind Sports doesn't have rights over the flag. That's the government. They have rights of it. There is an entire set of legislation over the use of the flag.
But surely that should be handled by the owner of the flag and...
That's the government.
Yes, then government should be the one stepping in, not Mind Sports South Africa.
No. Well, that's fine. Okay, the next time...
Surely.
No, Matt, that's fine. Some people have seen, obviously, the regulations. The people have done their homework for national colours. It's very easy. We can sit back and we can say, well, look, yeah, do what you like. What we have done is it as a service, and we've always spoken one-on-one to the people who are going, as well you know. And this is the important part. We don't want to see gamers get into trouble. So when we're saying, look, you can't do this, it's not us who are saying you can't do this. We're saying, and we've always, if you have a look at the correspondence that we've had with the people concerned, dating back to Koob, if you will remember that, yes. A lot of the truth there was also conveniently omitted. But can I finish? What you will find is that all our correspondence said, in terms of X, Y, and Z, this is what you can't do, but you can do A, B, or C. Choose which option you want. We have always done that. It was easier, obviously, when Energy Esports says, we want to go, we are a member, what must we do? We wrote back to you, you complied immediately. It was a doddle, and it helped. And that's our function.
Well, that was out of fear of going to jail and all the other threats that come to everyone else.
No.
It wasn't out of convenience to us, surely.
Well, I think
I promise you it wasn't.
Well, I cannot say what your intentions were. But the thing is that we are more than willing to help. And as I said earlier, we have always allowed teams to go over because we can't stop it. And in fact, I said earlier, if a team wants to go overseas to an event, they're welcome to do it. It's just that they have to comply with existing legislation. It's not a case that somebody can just say, well, I'm a gamer. The legislation doesn't apply. Unfortunately, legislation does. George?
Sorry, just to confirm, that answer was part of the first question which Zoe posted. I was going to ask another question, but I'd rather give it to you.
No, to you want to go.
You sure? There's two left. Okay. Do you not believe that as an executive committee, understanding is that you need a logistics team, an operations team, a facilitations team to make things happen. Okay, now relying on clubs as it stands right now is one way to look at it. And the clubs are inherently regionalized, or a school or the like. In terms of the ability to commit to online gaming, which is what is important, especially to esports, where you have really good teams spread over a large area. Sorry, this question is made up of two sub-questions. Okay. Do you not believe that the engagement of that type of solution is important? It is vitally important because, you know, we talk here about regional champs and qualifiers and provincials and all this other good stuff. But to actually really what is your take on it? What is your take on the understanding of the difference between, and I apologize in advance for what I'm going to say, but diplomatic talk, okay, versus actual engagement at gamer level? And that is through logistics, facilitation, and so on and so on. How do you plan, Sampiwa, to make that happen? Because I believe, in my humble opinion, I believe that is, beside communication, the biggest obstacle between mind sports and esports and the greater gamer out there. How do you plan to sort that out? Okay, that's part one of sub A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want an answer now, or do you want to ask first? Okay. That's a tough one. But yeah, I guess I'll have to sit with my committee and think of ways to go forward in terms of liaising with the gamers and forming a bridge between us and them.
Yes.
Yes.
You see, because based on what I just said now,
Yes.
now this is sub B, so there's still another question. Right?
Oh.
But sub B question is this. Okay? Is that, understand, I come from an Xbox background, and my son and all the guys from that perspective, but you know, you've got the likes of MLG, and you've got the guys of DreamHack, and you've got all the other guys where there's all this money. I mean, you've got kids who are earning 40,000 Rand a month, you know, and all this other good stuff. They set up in houses and all this other good stuff. And that's what and this is what my son sees.
Yes.
My question is this, okay? Do you not believe that it is imperative that the esports representative, which yes, I understand is ideally an admin function and facility, I truly understand that. But do you not believe that the core importance that you guys as Mind Sports or the authority on esports, do you not believe that what you have to do, you have to do? And I'm not telling you to do this, please. I'm asking as a father and as a gamer. You have to engage and get a committee together that represents esports and is able to talk to a representative who comes from esports and who can really take the plan of action to Mind Sports, and Mind Sports can take it to the IESF and make it happen from internal. Okay, the point is I'm trying to make. Every esports gamer they are extremely active on the web. They're extremely active on seeing all these games and doing like MLG technology and the like, and they see this. And they are saying, why don't we have it here? And we do have it here. The difference is that we've got the issue with the diplomatic side and what you guys need to sort out. Okay, and that's governmental requirements and SASCOC requirements and all this other good stuff. And I'm saying, but that's all that you guys should look at. Okay, you should get the whole logistics side. So, sorry, that was leading up to the actual question.
Okay.
And the actual question is, are you going to appoint a council or an advisory council and take them seriously for esports for the whole of South Africa? That's the question. Because that is, in my opinion, your biggest step you could take as president right now to understand and help understand gamers that you are serious about taking esports seriously. Are you going to do that? Are you willing to do that? That has been mentioned previously.
Actually, we do have representative for the esports.
You just told us that you were looking for someone to represent you.
Yes.
You didn't have anyone who could.
No, that
No.
was vice president for
No.
events.
We asked why there wasn't an esports representative here today, and you said there wasn't one, but you were looking to hopefully get one.
Because we have president, general secretary, so no esports representative. That's what we asked.
That was our very first question. So do you have an esports person or don't you?
Yes, we do.
Who is that person?
Ryan Boyce.
Why are we not instructed to contact him when we asked him who else we could speak to other than you, who were told Carl Holiday?
Yeah.
So why is our esports representative not available to the esports athletes?
Okay, in that case, if we do have a representative, okay, can we have a contact list of people with relevant departments who we can speak to with regards to relevant issues? Legal, for example, our holiday, right? We know what you do, we know what you do at this. Can we have a list of people we can talk to who will be willing to talk to us and engage us? It's critical, absolutely critical we have that. I mean, I'm sure you understand the importance of that.
It's for the committee to decide.
Okay. No, I'll bring that to the committee to decide on. Last question.
He still just wants an
Sorry,
answer.
on the council, you know, as much as you have a representative,
Maybe a representative, maybe not.
please understand, sorry, let me explain the reason for my request regarding the council. Okay. Any person here may play 1 or 5 disciplines out of 50. No one person can engage on all 50 disciplines. It's almost impossible. And that's why the person on your committee, who is admin ideally in terms of executive, needs people advising him as to the 50 different disciplines. You understand what I'm saying? So this is what I'm talking about, a committee for the various platforms, a committee for the various games, and so on and so on. Would you consider, would you look at, would you engage in having that person or that committee be appointed and deal with the esports representative right now on your committee, and in time that the leaders of that committee can actually in time apply to become the esports national representative on the council?
Okay. Okay, I can't take a decision alone. The best thing I can do right now is to take it back to when we have our meeting in the next after the next championship. Then I'll definitely bring that one up.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
Simply, I wanted to ask what the MSSA stance is on any competition it may receive in the next couple of years. There are other organisations coming up looking to represent esports and gamers themselves to guys who actually know what's going on in the esports atmosphere. Maybe not from the government side yet, but guys who are actually involved and have been for a very long time. What is the MSSA stance on those associations? And are you going to seek legal action if they do surpass you? The reason I ask that is because esports is such a big, vast thing, and given how little time you actually have, I believe it may be a better thing to have esports as a separate function of, rather than be lumped in with wargaming and whatever else is covered by Non-Sports Africa. Are you going to fight tooth and nail to retain it, or are you going to let it go if something better does come along? Or let's not say better, something more suited to take care of the game's
or on a whole basis to that.
On a whole level.
I think, you see, once again, you're not quite fully understanding the structure. With Mindsport South Africa, the president is the public officer. So the public officer is the person.
But surely he should have answers to.
Sorry, you should have answers to his questions.
Yes, well, he asked me to answer. Also, I have a lot of knowledge in terms of the Constitution. So, if you're looking at if you're having a look at it the way it works, it's very simple. It's done in terms of the Constitution of the country, in terms of the Act of the country. If the membership wants to have it split off, that's the way it would work. Another body. Can I finish?
How can you have 2/3 of your membership deciding on what 1/3 of your membership is and isn't allowed to do in their sport? Because esports is a tier 1 sport, not wargaming, not card gaming, anything like that. Why is esports not given importance in Mindsport South Africa over these other disciplines?
No, well, what you are looking at is the way that the MSSA operated, certainly while I was the president, is that everything was treated equally. No preference was given to any one section, and everybody received the same benefits. What you're looking at is in terms of the country's constitution, there's freedom of association. Anybody can belong to whatever organisation to which they feel they want to belong, and there's no problem with that whatsoever. If the membership of the MSSA feels that they want esports to be separate, obviously the MSSA will honour any decision made in that regard. And that is the answer.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.